Election day in key battleground state Ohio no longer just on November 4th, because starting today, if you live in Ohio, you can begin voting for president by mail or even in person. What kind of lawsuits or potential problems could arise from this new thing going into effect today?
John Fund is a columnist for the Wall Street Journal and the author of this book, Stealing Elections. He joins us right now from near the Space Needle in Seattle. Good morning to you, John.
Morning.
As I look at the Associated Press, I see out of Columbus, Ohio, here's the story. Democrat Barack Obama's presidential campaign blitzed bars, and advocates for the homeless have lined up vans to ferry potential voters from shelters. Because from now until the 6th day of October is this window where they have this one-stop registration and voting, right?
It's called same-day voter registration. You show up, register to vote, you vote at the same time, your ballot goes in the box with everybody else, and if you're ineligible, if you're a felon, if you're actually living out of state, if your votes shouldn't be counted, you're going to be counted, and the postcard that will basically prove that you shouldn't have voted will come back address unknown weeks later after your vote has been counted. The Milwaukee Police Department did a 75-page report on how this same-day voter registration problem led to massive fraud in the 2004 election. And in Ohio, 4 years ago, you had people registering as Mary Poppins, Dick Tracy, George Foreman, Jive Turkey, and many of those people ended up voting.
Yeah.
And this only compounds the problem.
Yeah, and especially in as important of a state as Ohio. Not that any state is not important, but especially Ohio this year. John, let me ask you this. How does somebody register as Mary Poppins with a driver's license? Don't you have to show a driver's license when you register to vote?
No.
You don't?
In most states, you don't.
In most states? Okay, so that you don't have to show
over half the states, no identification.
So no identification at all?
In over half the states.
Well, no wonder people can be Dick Tracy then and Mary Poppins.
No kidding. Okay, so now, while you're suggesting, and I just read this story from the Obama camp that they're, canvassing bars and getting people, come on, let's go vote and register. Surely this happens on the Republican side as well.
Oh, of course, and the Republicans are going to try to get as many voters to the polls early to bank the votes. This is a nonpartisan issue. Voter fraud can occur in both political parties. What I'm simply saying is these are rules, though, that undermine the credibility and the legitimacy of the election, because if Ohio is very close, a few thousand votes, there will be a whole bunch of people who will know by then had voted during this period, but will get their address postcards back saying you don't exist or your address is a vacant lot. Then we'll say, well, this election could have been decided by people who shouldn't have voted, but we won't be able to find their votes in the pile, and we might have a compromised election because of this.
Yeah, why isn't Congress working on something like that?
And they don't count, real quickly though, John, they don't count any of those absentee ballots unless they need to. Is that right?
Oh, no. All of those will eventually be counted.
Okay.
It's a myth that they're somehow set aside if the election isn't close. But the problem is you can't go back and find out which votes are invalid and which votes aren't.
Right.
Because by then they'll have been counted.
There's no trail.
I learned a lot from this guy.
No kidding. The book is great. It's called Stealing Elections. It certainly is topical. John Fund, we thank you very much for joining us right now from Seattle.